Who has the better frozen pizza, US or UK? We're digging in to see who has the best value, how it compares to delivery, and some interesting facts you might not know.
Starting now in the US, it is safe to say DiGiorno is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, frozen pizza brand. Right here is the rising crust pepperoni version, and it, according to the box, weighs 24.7 ounces or 702 grams.
One of the best-selling pizzas in the UK is this one. It's the Goodfella's Classic Crust Pepperoni. According to the packaging, this one weighs 524 grams, although when I measured it uncooked, it actually came to 532. I want to see how much weight this lost during the cooking process. Cooking process or burning process. After cooking, that's actually only 460 grams. It's a pretty substantial decrease.
Get a good look, UK. Can we zoom in there? This pizza is advertised as being similar to delivery. It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno. Every American knows exactly that slogan, very popular. It's a major selling point that the dough of this pizza is supposed to rise and give the texture and appearance of a freshly delivered pizza. Now, before we started cooking this pizza, I measured its weight, and it is actually 745 grams frozen. More than advertised in the box. Very generous, DiGiorno. Thank you. I have adjusted the scale for the weight of the pizza pan. And once it's cooked, looks like it weighs closer to 690 grams. Now, I want to say the box said originally 702, so that's loses 12 grams only. That's pretty nice, I think.
For this one, there was actually no change in the size of the crust when it was cooked.
Let's take a look at this crust. Full inch crust has doubled in size.
We do have quite a few brands in the UK that use takeaway on the packaging, takeaway being what we would call a delivery in the UK. That said, I don't think many would use the takeaway aspect as their kind of main selling point. I think most Brits would just get that takeaway and home-cooked pizzas are likely to be different. When it comes to frozen pizza in the UK, I think there's a bit of a divide. On the one hand, you have these thin and crispy or stone-baked pizzas. Typically, the thin crust ones will be smaller and maybe a little bit less complicated when it comes to the toppings. On the other hand, we have these thicker crust, kind of more American-style pizzas. The crust can be pan or stuffed, and typically you're expecting a few more toppings and maybe a larger focus on the meat. If I wanted a heftier pizza, which I often do, I think I would go for one of these kind of loaded stuffed crust pizzas like a Chicago Town stuffed crust pepperoni. On the packaging of this pizza, it says it weighs 645 grams. When I weighed it before cooking, it was actually slightly more, around 670. However, now that it's cooked, it's actually only weighing 562 grams. That's still smaller than that pizza in the US. I love these things so much. These are unironically one of my favorite foods. I have this very cute cat pizza cutter. The only issue is it doesn't really work very well because they're supposed to roll and this one kind of just doesn't. Part of why I love these ones is the stuffed crust isn't cheese, it's actually sauce. A little marinara running through there. As people might say, hey, the crusts are dry. No, they're not. Sauce on the inside. I think this is just the goat of frozen pizzas.
I've never seen a crust stuffed with anything other than cheese, so for real, that looks nasty.
As you'd expect from a company that claims to be from Chicago, they also sell deep dish pizza. Here is the Mega Meaty. As you can see, these are small pizzas, and you get 2 in a box. Each one of these weighs around 157 grams for a total of 314. Again, before cooking, they actually came to slightly above the expected weight. These were around 350 grams. Now they are 308 grams. These remind me of birthday parties that I attended while I was growing up. Pretty handy, you can fit a bunch of them in the oven at once. From stressed out parents running around dishing out Chicago Town deep dishes. I've never been to Chicago, but as far as I can tell, these are pretty authentic deep dish, right, Joe?
No, not at all. And if anyone was wondering, that's not a Chicago or even a US brand.
I'm always blown away by the bread ratio on these, because I know typically with the Chicago deep dish, it's more like a pie crust that you then fill with stuff, whereas these are like solid bread, sauce, cheese toppings. Unfortunately, Joe's right. That's not an American company. It's in fact owned by Dr. Oetker. Dr. Oetker with their Ristorante line of frozen pizzas, I would say are like a direct competitor in the UK to Chicago Town. Owning both brands and playing them off against each other seems very Yojimbo. That's a reach for our audience, Joe.
Great movie. Also, for both of us right now, let's look at the pizza image on the packaging versus the final product. I have to say, this looks like a pretty good pizza, especially for frozen. I think they're playing up the thickness on this, but all right. So it's not like exact, but I wouldn't be like so shocked.
I have slightly burnt this one. That's kind of on me. But broadly speaking, I would say a fairly faithful recreation.
I mean, this might be the benchmark pizza. This is very good. I think it's a lot fluffier than you would think a frozen pizza would be. It emphasizes the rising crust. I know other ones do, but for me, this definitely is a good pizza to fill you up on. The expectation versus reality gap on how food is advertised versus what you get is so common, there's even a subreddit dedicated to showing those differences. Now, the US tends to be a bit more litigious than the UK, we'll say, and yes, people have sued corporations like McDonald's and Wendy's over claims of false advertising.
In a recent case, courts did actually side with restaurants on this issue, claiming that no reasonable person could expect a burger to look exactly like an advertisement. Another big win for our corporate overlords.
Back in 2020, I found this ad for an LA grocery chain that was selling DiGiorno Rising Crust pizzas like this one for $4.99. Today, I'm seeing the same pizza for about $6.50, depending on the store. Now, is that the worst price increase over the past 5 years? I mean, the good family at DiGiorno has to make a living on these things too, right? Frozen pizza is big business in both countries. In 2022, here in the US, the frozen pizza market size was valued at $6.62 billion. And in Britain, the year before, it was 469 million pounds, which translates roughly to 582 million US dollars. Now, there's more people in the US, so that works out to, in the US, $19.86 million per a million people. In the UK, it's about 7.32 million pounds, or roughly $9.2 million per a million people. Yes, we like frozen pizzas here in the US.
Let's compare the price of a delivery pizza versus a frozen pizza in both countries. In the UK, there's pretty much always a deal on. Right now, we can get a large pepperoni pizza from Domino's for £12. On average, one of those pizzas weighs 858 grams. So with Domino's, you're paying around £1.40 for every 100 grams of pizza. Let's compare that to these frozen options. Our pepperoni Goodfella's pizza is around 86 pence per 100 grams. It would take just over 1.5 of these pizzas to match the weight of a large Domino's. The Chicago Town stuffed crust pepperoni is 78 pence per 100 grams. Just 1 1/3 of these pizzas would be enough to match the Domino's one. And then we also have this Dr. Oetker Ristorante Margarita pizza. Per 100 grams, you're paying 97 pence for this pizza. So as you might expect, even factoring in a deal and not including delivery fees, you're getting a much better value with frozen pizzas than you are with a Domino's.
Here in the US, a Domino's large hand-tossed pepperoni pizza cost me $19.99. Breaking that price down is 55 cents per ounce or $1.94 per 100 grams. This soon-to-be-cooked Tombstone pepperoni pizza is $5.99, which breaks down to 32 cents per ounce or $1.13 per 100 grams. Now, I want to point out weight-wise, 1.95, so basically 2 of these equal to the same weight of that Domino's large pizza. Our DiGiorno Rising Crust pepperoni was $6.99, which is about 25 cents per ounce or 88 cents per 100 grams. And about 1.31 of these equals the large Domino's pizza. So yes, if it wasn't already obvious, going frozen is a better deal than delivery in the US. Wasn't even including tax and tip.
How about branded versus supermarket own brand? Here we have the Goodfella's pepperoni, and here we have a Tesco own brand. As you'd expect, the supermarket own one is much cheaper. One of these pizzas is just £1.45 versus the £4.50 that you're paying for the Goodfella's one. The Goodfella's pizza is bigger, but even taking that into account and doing a price per 100 grams, this one comes to 41 pence, and this one comes to 85 pence. So the Goodfella's per 100 grams is more than double the cost.
All right, over here we have Signature Select Pizza, which is also a rising crust pepperoni. For those who know, Signature Select is kind of like a brand that is in some grocery chains across the country. This is their $4.99 Rising Crust Pepperoni Pizza, which is similar to the DiGiorno's brand Rising Crust Pepperoni Pizza. I want to point out that this one is about 29% less than the DiGiorno.
But we don't just eat with our wallets, we also eat with our mouths. We mostly eat with our mouths, actually. I've burned both of these in the interests of fairness. The expensive branded one. Look at those big pepperonis. Very salty, pleasantly bready. They are actually pretty different. I'm getting a lot more salt from the Goodfella's one. The sauce itself maybe a bit sweeter as well. And the dough has quite a fluffy texture, I would say. This one I actually really like. I think the sauce is a bit richer, a bit more savory, not as salty. The dough on this one, definitely a bit chewier. I think in terms of value on this one, I'm probably picking Tesco. I don't get much more from that one to really justify that kind of extra £3 that you would be spending on it.
Already had a slice of this. Want to do another bite? Pretty good. And this is very good. Straight up, save your money. Go to Signature Select. Bro, yeah. I would say maybe an argument can be made that the DiGiorno's has more pepperoni. I didn't really count. The difference is very subtle. Guys, I'm doing them side by side. If you like flipped them back and forth, I don't think I'd be able to tell. How does frozen pizza nutrition compare to delivery? Once again, we're comparing the Domino's large pepperoni pizza to these 3 of the best-selling US pepperoni versions of the DiGiorno, which we've been rocking with this whole video. I also got my boy Red Baron and Tombstone. It turns out all 3 of these frozen pizzas have more calories, more fat, and more sodium. Ugh! All 3 of them, all 3. Can you believe it? But one wonders, can I taste the difference? Domino's is so good. Now this one's supposed to be more sodium and fat. Doesn't taste like it, to be honest. This one has more flavor than the Domino's one. This is looking a lot more like a frozen pizza. Red Baron, I don't know about this. This is a thin one. It does taste saltier. This is the original crust. This is where we start. This is paper thin. I've been rocking with Tombstone since as long as I can remember. Tombstone's a bit of a nostalgia play for me. It's hard for me to say. At least these 2, I'm tasting the sodium or the saltiness more than both the DiGiorno's and the Domino's. Let me get back in here again. So yeah, I would put these 2 in one category and these 2 in another. So yes, DiGiorno, you are very close to delivery. Congratulations.
Comparing our UK pizzas to a Domino's large is actually not as cut and dry as it is in the US. Per 100 grams, our Goodfella's pepperoni pizza contains 260 calories, 12 grams of fat, and 880 milligrams of sodium. That's more sodium but less fat and calories. 100 grams of the Chicago Town loaded pepperoni contains 261 calories, 9.7 grams of fat, and 387 milligrams of sodium. This is lower in fat, calories, and sodium compared to Domino's. And once again, for fans of thinner pizzas, is the Dr. Oetker Ristorante Mozzarella. 240 calories, 11 grams of fat, and 352 milligrams of sodium. Much less than the Domino's for all 3. Broadly speaking, I would say Brits expect a frozen pizza to be healthier than a takeaway. So to me, this kind of all checks out. The main surprise for me is actually that this, per 100 grams, has less fat than a Dr. Oetker.
Interesting. Frozen pizzas are typically highly processed and contain artificial preservatives, added sugar, and unhealthy fats. They can be high in refined carbs. The cheese and processed meats add to the saturated fats, and, of course, all that sodium from the sauce and meat toppings.
One classic frozen pizza problem is when the cheese cooks and melts but doesn't actually adhere to the pizza. It leads to that thing where you bite into a slice and all of the cheese and toppings come off in one go. The real issue here is moisture, or a lack of it, from a frozen pizza. There are a couple of ways around this. Firstly, you can let your pizza thaw a little before you cook it. As the ice melts and the water is mixed back into the pizza, it'll help everything kind of get to know each other. If you don't want to wait for it to thaw, adding a few drops of water to a frozen pizza will also achieve the same effect. One thing I will say about leaving a pizza to thaw is don't do it with these Chicago Town stuffed crust ones. As you'll see on the packaging, these ones are actually made with a raw dough. That means that the dough actually rises a bit in the oven when you cook it, but if you leave it to thaw, it does this. Whereas a lot of frozen pizzas are par cooked and will hold their shape even when they thaw, this one is not the case.
Another trick to crisp up your pizza is to cook it at a way higher heat. Most restaurant pizzas are cooked at 700 to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like 370 to 540 degrees Celsius, which can therefore make the crust crispier. Now, most home ovens do not go up that high, but if you wanted to crisp up the crust, to cook the pizza on the oven rack itself with no tray and just be aware of drippage. Now, to be clear, I am not telling anyone to crank up your stoves to high heat when cooking a pizza. It's just something I found online. I am not liable for any possible oven disasters if you try this, but there is some potential hazards there that I'm not responsible for if you try it. That's all I'm saying. Legally absolved.
There are a few ingredients commonly found in frozen pizzas that you should be aware of. Last year, some scientists raised alarms over titanium dioxide, an ingredient also used in sunscreen.
Titanium dioxide is regulated by the FDA in the US, and in the UK it is not classified as hazardous. It is, however, banned in the EU.
Concerns about consuming titanium dioxide include harm to internal organs, immune and reproductive systems, and your DNA. Yikes.
This episode is focused mostly on pepperoni pizza. Some of the pepperoni you see here in the US today does contain BHA and BHT, which is banned in the EU and subject to restriction in the UK. Both ingredients have been linked to cancer and blood clotting.
Obviously, it would be impossible to show off every exclusive pizza in the UK, but here are some ones that we thought the US might find interesting. Not only are those crazy people at Chicago Town stuffing their crusts with tomato sauce, but they've actually just launched this new pizza. This is the Magnificent Meat Feast pizza, and the crust on this one is stuffed with barbecue sauce. I love the tomato stuffed crust one. I think this might be too far even for me. I'm not usually the biggest fan of barbecue sauce on a pizza anyway. Next up, we have the Chicago Town Tiger Crust pizza. This one is just a cheese pizza, but with that tiger crust. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't add too much in terms of flavor. You maybe get little, like, slightly burnt bits of that kind of ricey crust on it. To me, it just looks like they're kind of using cheese to replicate the tiger crust. I don't think they're doing the rice paste thing, and also there's no rice on the ingredients. So yeah, maybe they're just using kind of little bits of cheese on the crust to give that same tigery effect. Realistically, these crusts kind of look the same anyway, and this one isn't advertised as having tiger crust.
Ah yes, the UK tiger crust. I saw it in the processed bread video, and now you guys got tiger crust, pizza crust. Don't think anything like that would really make it over here in the US. Some crust options you get here in the US, we can go the deep dish. Here's the Red Baron deep dish pizza, sort of like your Chicago town, just these little guys. I don't know, I mean, deep dish? I don't know how deep that is. This difference is a lot more staggering, I think. Yeah, I like the taste, and if you're just doing pizza for yourself, guys, I'm not cooking all these pizzas, all right? They got this one thing, it's taking 20 minutes of pizza. Come on, man, I got stuff to do. This is the Signature Select. Remember Signature Select? They're back. The ultra thin, but I'm not gonna cook it, but I wanna know, what are we considering ultra thin? Remember earlier when I had the Tombstone, the Red Baron? Those were regular, and that was like super thin. So for them to be like, we went ultra thin, like, did you? That looks pretty similar, right? Tombstone, it's almost like a bug, where with Signature Select, it's the feature, right? The Tombstone's like, hey, look, it's really thin, all right? We're keeping them thin. We want to keep the price down. Meanwhile, Signature Select is like, oh man, we're repackaging it. Like, guess what? Ultra thin. Wow, that's so generous of you guys. And UK, look, I didn't see this on your Sainsbury website. None of your stores claim to have had this. It's a cauliflower crust pizza. I'm assuming it's gluten-free, yes? So anyway, instead of the crust made of dough and bread and all that good, delicious stuff, I mean, they took a cauliflower and just flattened it out and froze it and put pizza on it. I have had cauliflower crust pizza, and I will say, you can taste the difference, but it's not like that different. So if you're really looking for a way to sneak vegetables into your diet or your children's diet,
here I have a wood-fired crust. These are slightly fancier pizzas that try to mimic the taste and look of a pizza that's actually being cooked in an oven. Generally speaking, this will produce a softer and fluffier crust, also with those kind of like leopard spotting charred effects on the bottom. Most of the supermarkets in the UK will have one or two of these options. Here I have a Sainsbury's one with a Napoli salami and red chili. I do like these, it does feel fancier, it's a little bit more impressive. For me, this isn't something that I would necessarily get myself if I just wanted a frozen pizza at like short notice.
Here in the US, we also have wood-fired or coal-fired frozen pizzas. Over here, you can see this Good and Gathered. That's the Target generic brand, or the Target brand, wood-fired right there. There's also a brand called Table 87, their coal oven pizza, and they come like vacuum sealed. Here they're fantastic. As far as US pizza chains, California Pizza Kitchen, a very popular US pizza chain, also has a variety of their pizzas, frozen and available. So today I went ahead and got their barbecue chicken. California Pizza Kitchen, for those of you who don't know, is a pizza chain, and their claim to fame, I guess like in the late 90s, early 2000s when they first blew up, was like they have so many different toppings, so many different varieties, just like in California. I don't know. They were hot for a little bit there, then every other pizza chain was like, all right, fine, we'll also have grilled chicken and, you know, roasted vegetables or whatever. And as you can see, over here, I went ahead and got delivered an actual California Pizza Kitchen from a California Pizza Kitchen location. This is their somewhat famous barbecue chicken pizza. Delivery versus frozen. This is a takeaway you can have for this one, everyone. There's no way that this is also this. Okay, I tasted barbecue sauce, not much else. This is very good. The flavor of the chicken in this is incredible. With the onion, CPK, knows what's up. This, no good. I'm gonna be honest with you, this is so bland. You're better off getting any pizza. Like I would get like a cheese pizza and put barbecue sauce on it. I'm not kidding.
Pretty much every supermarket here in the UK offers a range of its own brand pizzas. In addition to the classic thin crust stone baked, Tesco also offers a deep pan meat feast. I kind of like deep pan pizza. For me, it does just bring back pure memories of Pizza Hut buffets from when I was younger, which are mostly good memories. Just in general, supermarket-owned brand ones tend to represent much better value. Here we have a Sainsbury's thin and crispy cheese pizza. This might be the cheapest pizza we've talked about today. This thing costs just £1.10.
US grocery chains do have their own generic brands, but they're never named after the chain. Target, for instance, has Good and Gather, lots of food stuff and non-food stuff, I think. This is the Margherita wood-fired crust pizza you saw from earlier. Then the Albertsons company that has grocery chains like Safeway, Vons, and Jewel Osco in the Midwest have the signature selects. As for the lowest price pizza that I could find, it is this, a Celeste cheese pizza. Obviously a lot smaller. Everyone watching right now, I want you to go to the comments. I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to guess how much you think this costs. $1.49. That's right, $1.49. This is 148 grams, so that's about a penny a gram. Right? Nice rounded up there. Thank you. I'm assuming that's Celeste right there. No disrespect to this Celeste if this is you, but I'm gonna go on a limb and say that this is not very good. I did notice in the back here, they have a snack attack recipe idea, and from what I can tell, they're giving you other things you could put on top of this to make it a better tasting pizza, including a taco nacho pizza. This to me says like, we also have no faith in this product. Buy it and put other stuff on it, please, just buy it.
Then we have some items that are kind of frozen pizzas, but also kind of not. Here we have these cheese and tomato subs from Chicago Town. I've never had these before. They're interesting. They look quite herbaceous. Another almost pizza option that we have in the UK are these pizza pockets from Goodfellas. These are kind of flatbreads which are folded over and have some cheese and tomato sauce inside. My notes on these are A, they look kind of sad, and B, I don't think that's a pocket. A pocket is like a trouser pocket where, you know, you have one opening, whereas these are unsealed on 3 sides. That's too much for a pocket.
Here in the US, we love making other things into pizza, or pizza into other things that aren't pizza. We have, of course, bagel bites. What is that? A mini bagel that also has pizza on top of it. I don't know where this came from, but if you were a kid in the 90s, aughts, or teens, or now, you know, these are awesome. Speaking of awesome pizza-flavored things, pizza rolls, Totino's pizza rolls. You gonna have these in the UK? Probably because they are barely food, I think. And of course, Hot Pockets, tube with pizza and cheese gooing out of it. It has like a little like sleeve that you cook it in, so like it cooks it extra fast, you microwave it, and it's always impossibly hot on the inside. You know how like McDonald's has over 1 billion served on their sign? This one should be like over 1 billion tongues burned. Down here, French bread pizzas from Red Baron. It is, I don't know, similar to those Chicago Town subs. You know, think of French bread. I'm sure France is stoked about this. I want to point out that the actual Red Baron shot down British and French planes during World War I. So the good people at Red Baron are really sticking it to the British and French. You know, who was just like, yo, let's put that guy who we fought against on the box. That's nuts, right?
I do love frozen pizzas. Growing up, we had them pretty often, either the frozen ones or maybe the refrigerated but also ready-made pizzas. If I had to pick a favorite, it is still my boy, the Chicago Town takeaway stuffed crust pepperoni. There's something about the dough that's different to the other ones. I think it is that kind of live dough, the way it kind of still rises, gets a nice texture contrast. The sauce stuffed crust as well, I really love. I think that's genius innovation.
I don't really go for frozen pizza that much anymore. When I did, it was probably Tombstone or a brand that might be a Midwest brand, Jack's. If there's a generic one, I'm getting that.
As I've grown older and I've also fallen in love with cooking a lot more and cook myself a lot more meals, I think pizzas have maybe taken a slight backseat in my cooking and eating habits.
Growing up, we had frozen pizzas a lot. I would say at least once a week. That was, I hate to say it, when Dad was taking care of dinner. And as we got older, it would be like pizza and something that resembled a side salad that I wouldn't eat.
I think part of the reason why I love them so much in terms of like ready meals or ready to eat meals is that it's just not something that's easy to cook from scratch at home. I often shy away from maybe some of the like pasta and sauce ready meals that you might find in supermarkets that I know I can just make a lot better at home. But making a pizza from scratch at home obviously can be quite a lot of effort. So it feels like at that point you're actually gaining a lot rather than just kind of like taking a small shortcut.
If you ask me how often we get pizza delivered a week, you know, a lot. Also like once a week. Sorry, I should stop. My cholesterol's a nightmare. Hey, thanks for watching this Food Wars. If you liked it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. There's also food tours. I'm in that, where I go places and pretty much do the same thing there as I do here. Very entertaining indeed. Anyway, if you have an idea for anything you'd like to see us compare on this show, go ahead and let us know in the comments. Goodbye.